became a lung force hero because I wanted to bring awareness to lung cancer because my mom had passed away from lung cancer in 2010. What makes me hopeful about the research for the future with lung cancer is that we have a lot of people that are involved in terms of trying to provide resources and get the resources so that we can have future funding to test various medicines and also look at other treatments. Right now, being a part of the Lung Force organization gives me the opportunity to be a voice for those who didn't have a chance to have a voice and to speak for those who are actually going through the treatments as well as trying to bring more funding and more awareness to this disease. It gives you a sense of you're giving back, and that's what I want to do. I want to give back to the Lung Force Initiative and to American Lung Association as much as I can. Bringing other people into the loop, it'll help things, I think, move things further and bring more awareness to this disease.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Think Big. I am your host, Akia Garnett. I'm very excited about this week's topic. It's all about lung cancer prevention and awareness and a very special story that's going to be shared by our guest, Bernard Kabler. He has written a book which is called Messages from the Messenger or From a Messenger, and it's filled with inspirational and motivational poetry. And he's going to read a little bit of that on air with us today, and you're going to learn so much about his journey and all the great things he's doing to help people overcome something so very important like cancer. Hi.
Yes, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. Thank you for being on with us this week.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Lung cancer. That's a pretty heavy topic.
Yes, it is. Lung cancer is the #1 killer of both men and women in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of became aware of lung cancer when my mom had the disease in 2010. And it's been really a challenging thing for me to really deal with her death and lung cancer and just supporting the whole lung cancer movement.
Wow, you said 2010?
Yes, ma'am.
It seems like it was a long time ago. Or
Yeah.
no, seems like yesterday.
Seems like yesterday, yeah. You know. And as a matter of fact, just yesterday was 7 years ago to this date in which I buried my mom. So it's been rewarding in its own way, but it's also been challenging for me certain times of the year.
So after you experienced such a tragedy, you wrote a poem.
Yes, ma'am, I did. My mom had passed away, as I said. Saturday night, I buried her, and Sunday morning, something in my spirit said, know who you are. Because my mom used to always say, son, I don't worry about you because you know who you are. You know, because I would have, different things going on in my life, and I would come and tell her. And she was like, you took care of that. I'm not worried about you know who you are. So that morning, early in the morning, I got up about 5:30 in the morning, and I went downstairs, grabbed a piece of paper and a pen, and I wrote this poem, Know Who You Are. And my wife and 2 sons came downstairs, and I said, listen to this poem that I wrote. And it was like, wow, Dad, that's great. So every Sunday in dedication to my mom, I would get up and write a poem. Next thing you know, Miss Garnett, I wrote over 100 poems.
Wow, that's a lot.
And that's how it is. That's how it
Oh
came
my
about.
gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, so it didn't sound like you had any writer's block there.
Not at all.
It was just flowing out, huh?
Not at all. I was always a pretty good writer.
Yeah.
But it was something that I think I was marveled by her spirit and just writing poetry.
Right.
And that was one of my first poems that I had written.
And from the time that you wrote that first poem to now, you've been really busy with various leaders in your community. How did you go from there to there?
Yeah, because this whole thing was bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And after I had written my poetry book, I had contacted the American Lung Association because I wanted to make this bigger than just myself.
Mm-hmm.
They were very receptive when I called them. They said, well, look, we like your story, and we want you to be a part of the organization. Right. And after a couple months or so, I became a lung force hero for the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And we also went down to Washington, D.C., and met with the congressmen and the senators down there for talk about affordable health care as well as funding.
Right.
And
That's huge, Bernard. I mean, it's a big thing to undergo, something like losing a parent, and then to go from that to being an advocate on Capitol Hill and working with state legislators.
yes,
You must have had a lot of ambition while you were going through.
yeah, I really did, because I got to meet a lot of people who were actually going through the disease, who were actually suffering from the disease, as well as being cured. And right now, it's a big push to try and push funding to have more funding and affordable health care
Right.
for these people to survive. And I met a lot of great people. And the American Lung Association has been very supportive, and it's just been great.
Right.
It's just really been great.
And you've been working on the prevention side or the awareness side. Which would you say has really drawn you in?
Well, I would say the awareness side, because after my mom passed away, that's when I became more aware of the disease. And once I became more aware of the disease, I said, you know what, I have to be supportive of this. I have to support this. I have to be a part of this.
Right.
And they were very well in receiving me, the organization.
Messages from a Messenger, transforming poetic principles into reality. How would you come up with the name of the book?
Well, you know, Ms. Garnett, we all have a story and we all have a message. And the way I came up with this title is that I'm always helping people, and I feel as I'm a messenger you use as a vessel to get my message across. And when I came up with poetic principles from reality, transforming poetic principles into reality, it's not just your everyday roses and red, violets of blue type of poetry. These poetry poems are going to transform the way you think and also bring a lot of positivity in your mind, as you move forward. And I coined my poems as poetic principles because they provide the reader or listener with valuable teachings, victories, real life experience, and a little laughter as well.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Do you feel like you're making an impact?
Yes, I really do. I really feel as though I'm making an impact because the way people are responding to me and the way people are responding to the book, as well as me supporting the American Lung Association, because I come from humble beginnings. My journey started from the inner city streets of West Philadelphia to the hallways of the Capitol in Washington,
Right.
D.C.
I feel like you're going to start singing Will Smith's.
Yeah. And it's been a journey for me, and I couldn't do it by myself.
Right.
And I had a lot of support, and it was just a great journey for me.
What are you hoping to see take place as a result of the work that you're doing, especially on the on that state and political level that you're dwelling in?
Well, I would like to see people become more aware of the disease, and also I want to make sure that people hear my story, and that's what it was about when I went to D.C. They have all the figures and the facts and everything, but I want them to hear my story, and that's what it was about. People going down there to hear the stories, to really touch the senators and the congressmen, to really kind of bring more awareness to them as well.
Right. So tell us more about the book. I know there are many, many poems in there. What's binding it all together?
Well, what really bounded this poetry book together, Ms. Garnett, was we all have a defining moment in our life. And it was a defining moment for me when I was, a couple years ago, in 2012, I was watching one of the religious channels on TV. And Mr. Steve Harvey, he was hosting this particular show. And he was giving his personal testimony about his life, and he was very emotional. And he said something that was very profound and very impactful that stuck with me. He said, the two most important things in life is the day you were born and the day you discovered why. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And I had just lost my mom in 2010. And it was so impactful to me because we all are destined to accomplish certain things in life, and we all have a purpose and reason for being. It's just a matter of us discovering it and not abandoning it. Because too often we abandon our dreams, our goals, our aspirations, but we also abandon our gifts. And that's what I felt as though I had as a gift. The defining moment was when he was talking and he said, if my mama could see me now.
Right.
And that touched me so much.
Yeah.
I went to the table and I wrote a poem,
Right.
If My Mama Could See Me Now.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I would like to know if you'll do a reading of that.
Oh, I would
for
love
us.
to. Oh, I would
Take
love
it
to.
away.
Yeah, this was a defining moment that really just knew that it was a confirmation for me, because when he talked about his mom, and it was just amazing. So this poem is called If My Mama Could See Me Now. It says, you've been blessed beyond man's imagination. Some people just can't understand how. It's all because things have been revealed to you. If my mama could see me now. Your life has changed so very, very much. You've accomplished things you never could have imagined. People are wondering and scratching their heads. How could this be? How could this happen? The transformation has transformed you to be at your very best. Regret is not a part of your vocabulary. Mr. Harvey, your past life's rigorous test. You sometimes stand in the background to let others take a bow. It's a validation of your success. If my mama could see me now. Your personal testimony has touched my heart and so many others near and far. Our Father's light surrounds and protects you like the light surrounds a shining star. Mr. Harvey, keep on moving forward and believe God will see you through. Your blessings are already lined up, and know that Mama is watching you. Wow. That was, when he was giving his personal testimony, Ms. Garnett, it touched me so much that I had to write this poem. The words, they just came to me. Right. And I just want to thank Mr. Harvey for giving me the inspiration to do that.
Does he know that you wrote?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't
I
know
hope
that?
He knows now.
Really?
I hope he knows now.
Wow, we've got to make sure he gets a message that you have inspired a wonderful poem.
That moment was just so transformational for me. It was unbelievable.
Right. Stay right there. We'll be right back with more from Bernard Kabler.
The Black Student Fund has been around for more than 50 years, and it served as an important resource for many, many families in the area who may not have always felt welcomed to independent schools. For school heads and administrators like me, it's a bit of a party and celebration coming to this, not only seeing other school personnel, but to meet so many families, some of whom have traveled from a distance, and I think they know that this is the one fair where they're going to see all the schools in the area.
Independent schools are such a wonderful resource for all the families, but particularly for families of color who may not have necessarily access that we need them to have. So this is a place where you can literally see every kind of education possible in the independent school world. So we have to give everyone an equal playing field. Black Student Fund allows us to do that.
We provide more insight into the admissions process, which has become more complicated than 50 years ago, so that families understand what they're going to have to do to actually apply to schools, complete the testing that's required for admission to the schools, and to position themselves through the financial aid process.
What I'm trying to get out of it is just basically making sure that I can give him better than what I had when I was growing up, and giving him a better start and the best education that I can give them all.
Luke is a special kid. He's pretty advanced, so we were looking for something that's affordable that we could get him in.
Today is a day where people learn that there is hundreds of millions of dollars of financial aid that's given out by these schools to today is a day of people making connections about their dream for their kids.
I would say that the Washington, D.C. area may have some of the most diverse independent schools in the country, and I think there's a direct link with the Black Student Fund. I think it's been transformative for many individuals, but also for the schools.
Welcome back to Think Big. I'm your host, Akia Garnett. Thanks for staying with us, Bernard.
Thank you. I'm here.
Yeah, so I mean, when you were meeting with, because you've had a chance to meet with various elected officials and policy influencers about lung cancer prevention and advocacy, what types of requests or recommendations were you making?
Well, when we went there as a group, everybody met with their individual senators and congressmen. It was such a great experience to walk the hallways of the Capitol.
Right.
And to see the different congressmen and the different senators. And we went into their office. They were very welcoming because they wanted to hear the stories, as I said before, and to sit down and meet and talk with them, and just really connect with them. They wanted to connect the person to the story who was impacted by lung cancer. And that was such a great experience for me.
Right.
And I took away a lot because I met a lot of people who were actually going through that process. I was with a young lady who was like 24 years old, never smoked in her life, and she had lung cancer.
Wow.
And we're trying to make sure that we can get medications and have research and advocacy, just like myself, so that these people can survive.
Right.
And the congressmen, they were very touched by my story as well as the other people who were there, and it was
Right.
just a great
It
experience.
must seem surreal to be at the United States Capitol
It
building.
really
and-
was. It really was, because I haven't been there since I was like in high school.
Right.
But when I went there, it brought back a lot of memories, and just to be there in that capacity,
Yeah.
that was the key, to be there in that
Right.
capacity
Yeah.
to help and know that I have a voice for people who didn't have a voice.
Right.
And and I know my mom would be very proud because it was all for her, and all this energy and all this advocacy
Yeah.
is a part of her legacy.
When you're and when you've been researching, and as you have researched lung cancer, and you've seen other causes of it, do you see that people tend to associate it with tobacco and tobacco products?
Yes, they do, and that's one of the causes that they're trying to really bring to light in terms of tobacco. Not selling tobacco, but
Right.
that's going to be an ongoing battle, as well as the air.
Yeah.
The quality of the air that we breathe as well.
Right.
And it's just a couple facts here. Every 5 minutes, a woman in the United States learns that she has lung cancer. Lung cancer causes more deaths than colon cancer, breast cancer, and prostate cancer combined.
Wow.
I didn't know that until I got involved in this whole
Right.
process. And that was very alarming to me because I knew that those numbers are just dramatic, and we have to try and do something to try to cure, to
Right.
try and detain that.
Yeah, that's a very big number, especially considering breast cancer awareness is its own thing. Very,
Yes.
very huge, and
Yes.
lung cancer has had a lifetime, in terms of awareness campaigns and so forth, but it certainly doesn't get the lion's share today.
Yes.
I think breast cancer does tend
Yeah,
to lead.
exactly, and that's why I'm trying to bring more awareness. And I even, have had a proclamation signed
Right.
in my township.
Mhm.
I met with the mayor in the last October,
Yeah.
and I wanted the mayor to bring more awareness to my township. And I
Right.
said,
But how did that idea even come about for you? I mean, it's just like, I want to do a proclamation. I mean,
like I said, Ms. Garnett, this thing is much bigger than me.
Yeah.
And I was always thinking outside of the box. And I said, you know what? I want to do something that can impact everybody,
Yeah.
not just my township, every other township, the whole United States. That's what I want to do. And I called the mayor up and I said, Mayor Darren, I want to meet with you. I want to, put together a proclamation. He said, okay. And I told him my story. So I went past his office and we put together a proclamation proclaiming that the month of November is Lung Cancer Month.
Right.
And that's when I knew
Yeah.
it was bigger than me. I just wasn't doing my work. I was doing God's work as well.
Right. Do you want to try to leverage that, maybe?
Yes,
see
ma'am.
if
We want to
other-
try and, if I can, take it nationally.
Yeah.
To every township.
Yeah.
To every state.
Yeah.
That's my goal. That's my mission. That's my goal, to tell my story and to have that travel as far as it can.
It sounds like the book has really changed your life.
It has. It really has. Like I said, Ms. Garnett, I come from humble beginnings, and You know, my mom always instilled the values of me of, you know, having good work ethic, being respectful, having good character, and performing with excellence. And that's what's molded me today as the man I am today. Those values right there. So I just try and exude that and show other people those characters as well, and as well as my kids and other people I have an impact with.
I mean, you talk about decisions, attitude, reinvention, and empowerment, and you developed the model, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How'd that come about?
You know, growing up, I grew up in a single parent home in West Philadelphia with my mom, and, you know, never seen my father before. And growing up, I had to make a lot of decisions on my own. And when we talk about decisions, you know, within an environment that you grow up in, you know, you're going to have a lot of distractions. You're going to have choices that you have to make. And that was one of the big things that I had to really focus in on to take myself to the next level as far as decision making, so I wouldn't get caught up in those distractions
So
growing up in the city.
And that means when you lost your mom, you really lost almost double.
Yeah, I really did, because when you look at a decision, every day we had to make decisions. Some are complex, some are simple, you know, but we had to make a decision. And just like every action has a reaction, every decision has a consequence. And for anyone to take themselves to the next level,
Right.
you know, you have to make very critical decisions, which means that you have to anticipate them, you have to make them, you have to correct them, you have to argue for or against them, and most of all, you have to live with them.
Right. I mean, tell us more about the model.
The model, so that particular model, those decisions, me growing up in the city, it came about just me focusing on bettering myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to get caught up in the environment. I didn't want my environment to be a part of my heredity, saying, well, you know, because I'm in this environment, this is what I have to do.
Right. I mean, it sounds like the wheels are always turning in your head.
Yes, ma'am, they always
you got
are.
A lot of ideas up there.
A lot of ideals, and it's like, you know, and I try to always motivate and inspire other people as well to make good decisions. And sometimes we're going to make bad decisions, like I did growing up. I wasn't perfect, but the decisions that I did make, I had an opportunity to recover from them.
Yeah.
So that's, when we look at that, so we look at attitude. You know, we want to talk about attitude?
Right.
Yeah, that was one part of the business model too, as far as attitude. I heard they said that a bad attitude is like a flat tire. If you don't change it, you can't go nowhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're looking at it from that perspective. You know, you'll be standing on the side of the road, you know, waiting for somebody to help you.
Right.
You know, because you have a bad attitude and you can't go nowhere.
Yeah, I think it's, what is another stat, that attitude is like 90% or 95% or something like that.
Yeah.
It's everything.
It's everything.
It really is. And
It's everything.
perspective, you know, all of those things.
Exactly.
Now, it's one thing to develop a model. It's another thing to properly, you know, to help people properly apply it to their lives. How do you do that?
It's all about the way you think. You have to transform the way you think. And that's what you have to do as you go through life. And I talk about this a lot of time with a lot of people. You know, James Allen, the author, said, all that a man achieves and all that he fails to achieve is a direct result of his own thoughts.
Right.
So we definitely have to pattern ourselves and look at the way we think, because the way we think, you know, is what the results you're going to get. You know, so you have to change the way you think. And this model itself, when we talk about decisions, I talk about attitude. The other thing I talk about is reinvention. You know, you have to reinvent yourself. And when you reinvent yourself, you're doing things differently.
Right.
You're doing things to change the way you used to be.
Right.
Because a lot of times we become complacent and we become, you know, stagnant. And complacency doesn't breed success. So when you're looking at reinventing yourself, whenever you're looking at, you know, reevaluating yourself and moving your life to the next level, you have to have a vision about your life in terms of where you want to go. And when you reinvent yourself, are you visualizing and defining yourself as being proactive or productive, or reactive and destructive?
Right.
The other thing, Ms. Garnett, you have to, when you're defining and visualizing your life, are you looking at yourself as being a visionary or a mercenary? A
What's the
visionary,
difference?
a visionary
Yeah.
is a person who sees the future. A mercenary is a person who comes in and destroys the future. So you have to look at what you want to do and which way you want to go, because we all have decisions. And it's part of that model.
Wow, that's that right there. We can spend time talking about that
Yeah.
mercenary concept that you mentioned, because that I think that deserves a little bit more of an explanation.
Mercenary, I mean, it's very destructive. You know, when somebody comes in as a mercenary, they come in to destroy. And that's what the enemy does. The enemy comes in to destroy your mind. The first thing he wants to destroy is your mind. So when you say, Miss Joyce Meyer, she says,
Right.
the mind is a battlefield.
Right.
And that's so
Great
true.
book.
Great book. And like a soldier, you have to protect your mind. You have to guard it. Because once things start to, negative stuff start to infiltrate your mind,
Right.
then you start feeling inferior, less than, you're not good enough.
Right.
So those types of things, when you talk about mercenary, that's what it's destroying your mind, coming in and destroying your mind.
Wow. I mean, you talked earlier about reinventing. You know, you have to reinvent yourself or reinvent your life. Do you feel that you have done that same thing for your own life?
Yes, ma'am, I have. And part of that is with the book.
Right.
The book has given me a platform to communicate the message, but also to accomplish the mission. And that was the whole idea behind this, because it just wasn't about me. It was bigger than me.
Right.
So when I look at the direction I'm going in and what I'm trying to do and how I'm impacting people, it's something positive. It's all part of that reinvention process.
Right. I mean, and do you think that you're getting enough support for the mission and the things that you're trying to do?
Right now I am, but I still would like a lot of other support,
Right.
you know, because
like what?
just other organizations I want to partner with. You know, I also want to, you know, being as I'm a lung force hero, I get an opportunity to go out and speak to people about my story. But I want to go motivate and inspire and become more of a motivational speaker too as well, and just tell my story and just use that model
Right.
to motivate people
Wow.
as well.
That would be great.
Yeah,
That would be great.
I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to doing that.
You know, there's another piece that you wrote. It's called University or Penitentiary, and I know that's
Yes.
a summarization of it. Can you read that one for us?
Yes, ma'am. And this poem came about, University or Penitentiary, it's your choice. It's a poem that I wrote for at-risk youth, because I was an at-risk youth. You know, because 70% of the juveniles in the correctional facilities come from fatherless homes. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. And 85% of the youth that are sitting in prisons grew up in fatherless homes. And that was me. And like I said, it's all about decisions. So when I wrote this poem, I was writing it to give a message to the youth. University or Penitentiary. I decided to go to the university to go to school. But we have to make a choice. It says University or Penitentiary is your choice for at-risk youth. Nelson Mandela says sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that generation. America's youth can successfully take us into the next century. However, it's their choice to choose the university or penitentiary. This generation is incredibly talented, smart, and very computer savvy, yet some choose to be out in the streets wearing their pants low and baggy. They sometimes can fall victim by becoming a product of their environment. 10 years have gone by. They now sit back and wonder, man, where all the time went. This is a message that should be heard not just by you, but also by me. The justice system says there are more teenage kids going to the penitentiaries rather than the universities. They each have a special gift they sometimes may later discover, some independently raising themselves, never knowing their father or their mother. They've seen so much in the streets and some are consumed with so much hate. Having no real foundation, they got off to a bad start, coming right out of the gate. They can't continue to make excuses. They have to start to make plans. It's their character that'll help them become a better person, a better woman, a better man. Children need to be mentors. Some can possibly make it on their own. No child should be abandoned. All they need is love, compassion, and a happy home. Success will be rewarded to those where risk meets opportunity. The pendulum of life sways before you to choose the university, the penitentiary.
Wow. What was
This-
on your mind when you were writing that?
Children making choices, you know, because I was, like I said, I was one of those at-risk kids. You know, I grew up in an environment, you know, where you had to make some serious decisions, you know, whether you want to go left, whether you go right. And that was on my heart to write there, because a lot of kids, they need that.
Right.
This one line right here, children need to be mentors. Some can possibly make it on their own. No child should be abandoned. All they need is love, compassion, and a happy home. That's so true today, because a lot of kids today are lost. You know, so it's people like me that I'm trying to gravitate to bring them to this message so that they can understand that they're not lost. It's people like myself as well as you who are influential out here that are making a difference. And that's what I'm trying to do, Ms. Garnett.
Wow. I mean, for this poem and all the poems that you've written, have you surprised your family?
Oh, definitely.
Did they know you had that in you? I mean, did you?
No, they sit there with their mouth open. They come downstairs and I'm like, listen to this poem. But they just sitting there like, wow, Dad, I didn't know you had this in you.
Right.
And neither did I. And that's what I'm saying, Ms. Garnett. That's why I know I have a gift. And that's why I need to share my gift to this world. Because when I read, so many people have been inspired by my poetry. It's unbelievable. It was a young lady on my job. Usually at lunchtime, I usually sit outside and take a break and just meditate, relax, enjoy life. And I was sitting out there at lunchtime. This lady, she was an Asian woman. She walked by. I said, hey, how you doing? We speak. Hey, how you doing? She walked by and came back. She said, hi, Bernard. I said, hey, how you doing? She said, I got your book. I said, oh. I said, thank you for your support, because some of the proceeds from my book are going to go towards lung cancer research as well. So I said, thank you for your support. So she said, yeah. She said, you don't look like a poet. You don't look like you write poetry, right? So I said, we laughed.
What does a poet look like?
Exactly,
Yeah.
And we laughed and I understood that. I understood what she was saying. She said, but I read this poem titled, I Miss You. She said, when I read that poem, it gives me goosebumps because I escaped from Vietnam. And she said, I escaped from Vietnam when I was a little girl. And she said, when I read that poem, it took me back to Vietnam. And she said, it was so powerful to me. And she said, I used to write a lot. She said, but my dad told me I used to write and read, too much. She said, but now I read your book, I want to start writing again. And she just turned around and walked away. She said, you know what? Your mom will be very proud of you.
Wow.
And I was like, thank you. And this was a woman I just see just walking by every day.
Yeah.
I didn't, she
And
read the book.
You're impacting people and you don't even know it.
Don't even know it.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's how you asked me earlier if I'm making an impact. That's how I think I'm making an impact.
Right. Check out this clip of Bernard in the media.
Lung Cancer Awareness Month is just a few weeks away, which is why we thought it would be a good idea to check in to see what's going on right in our own backyard. What we found is a Delaware State alumnus determined to inspire others after the disease hit too close to home.
Lung cancer is the #1 cancer killer of men and women in the United States.
Deb Brown, Mid-Atlantic President and CEO of the American Lung Association, gives us a look at what a diseased lung looks like.
Anyone can get lung cancer. You don't have to be a smoker. You don't have to be someone exposed to secondhand smoke. There's a variety of risk factors associated with that. In fact, 2/3 of people diagnosed with lung cancer have never smoked or have quit smoking.
Alarming as it sounds, Brown also listed a number of things, including trending behavior, that you should say no to.
Hookah, cigar smoking, the use of other products that have nicotine, etc. in them. The best way for someone to really prevent any type of disease or that is related to tobacco use or nicotine, the best way to prevent that is to never start.
But what about those already living with lung cancer? Delaware State alumnus Bernard Kabler is offering some encouragement through poetry after he lost a loved one to the disease.
I started writing an inspirational poetry book back in 2010. My mom had passed away with cancer, lung cancer, and that Saturday night after I buried her, that Sunday morning, something in my spirit said, know who you are. So I got up that Sunday morning and I started writing a poem, Know Who You Are, because she always used to say, son, I don't worry about you because you know who you are.
Since that moment, Kabler's poems, which are now compiled into a book, serves as motivation to those not only suffering from cancer, but people in need of a little direction.
A young lady on my job, she read my poems and she enrolled back in school and back in college. Another lady is teaching from my book, ministry from my book. So the book is very inspiring.
Meanwhile, every day there's something new happening in the lung cancer field. Over the past 5 years, the American Lung Association has put forth $9 million in research to hopefully one day find a cure.
The earlier we can get people to be diagnosed with lung cancer, the better we can treat it, and that translates into a longer survivor period. Every 2.5 minutes, a woman or man in the United States is told that they have lung cancer, and every 5 minutes, someone dies from lung cancer.
A few things to note. November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and turquoise is the color of choice. Also, there will be a Lung Force Walk in Rehoboth Beach to raise awareness. It's November 12th, so go online to support. Just log on to lungforce.org, and you can get your hands on Kabler's book, Messages from a Messenger, on Amazon. I like to add he was recently featured on lungforce.org and may be working with the American Lung Association in the near future to raise awareness. Lung cancer.
Welcome back. So you work with Lockheed Martin,
Yes, ma'am.
big brand.
Yeah, I've been in the defense industry for 30 years, and I've been with Lockheed Martin for 14 years.
It sounds like they've been very supportive of your initiatives.
Very supportive. Last year, they did an article on the homepage when I first did had written my book, my poetry book, and they talked about my background and how I put the book together and the things that I was doing when I got the proclamation signed as well. This year, they did a follow-up on me on my job because we had these 5 key imperatives that we focus on, and the article that I have written was based around those 5 key imperatives based on my accomplishments.
Yeah.
So when I wrote the article, it was put on the homepage where 90,000 plus people around the world who work for Lockheed Martin saw my article. That was very inspiring for me.
Right. You said the CEO has connected with
Yes,
you?
and the CEO reached out to me and expanded on my humanitarian. She appreciated my service for Lockheed Martin first, but she also wanted to thank me for my humanitarianism that I've been doing throughout this whole process.
Right.
And me honoring my mom. And that's what she was saying. She was like, you know, I should feel really grateful, you know, about the things that I'm doing and the challenges that I'm meeting and with American Lung Association.
You know,
so it was great.
It's wonderful when you have a brand, and you're, first of all, you're building your personal brand. You're able to do that and build your mission, you know, build up awareness for the mission, which is a very good thing. It's wonderful when you work for a company that invests in its employees and really, you know, helps you understand that, you know, they are committed not only to the work that you're doing for them, but the greater good, you know, that you're also doing out in the community. I wonder if it is inspiring other employees.
It has, and it felt good to me that she reached out to me personally because, you know, I'm sure she's so
Knocked
busy
you off
on
your
this
feet,
schedule.
huh?
Oh my God, man, I didn't even want to work the rest of the day.
Right.
But it was a great feeling, and people have been coming to me and telling me that you inspire me. You know, now that I see you doing a lot of humanitarian stuff within your community as well as outside of the community, I've even went down to my Delaware State University where I graduated from, and I spoke to the achievers.
Right. Were you like the first one, the first?
Yes, I was one of the first speakers to come back and speak at Delaware State.
I saw that. That's amazing.
Yes, ma'am. And this last April, I went down to Delaware State University, spoke to these kids who were in an high achievers program. These kids are going to be doctors, going to be scientists, and they had me as a keynote speaker, so I felt really honored. It was sponsored by the Links organization, and you know, they wanted me to come down and speak and talk to the kids.
Any other projects you're working on? What's keeping you busy?
Well, I'm trying to work on a project, Ms. Garnett, where I can start a writing initiative with the high school students, like the people in high school, to where they write a poem, we evaluate the poem, and the top 2 or top 3 people whose poem that we review get a scholarship in my mom's name. Plus some of the proceeds as well go back to the American Lung Association. So I'm working on something like that.
Do you think that poetry and just the beauty of the English language, or any language for that matter, is at risk as a result of some of the technology and different ways in which we communicate?
Yes, I think so, because kids, they're very expressive today. A lot of kids like like to write. They have a lot on their mind. So if they can write it on paper
Right.
and be expressive with it, and people are receptive and can read it, and take part in their writing initiative, I think that's that's motivation for them as well.
Right. What's next for you? What else would you like to do?
What was next for me? I think I see myself right now being a national spokesperson for the American Lung Association, because I just found out about a month or so ago that I'm going to be, for the Mid-Atlantic region, they selected me as the national hero for the Mid-Atlantic region because of all the things that I've been doing. So I want to be a part of that, and I also want to do some motivational speaking to get out there and help kids, because I want to give back.
Yeah.
Just like people gave back to me and helped me,
Right.
inspired me, I want to do the same thing.
As I'm listening to your story, there are several things that you mentioned that, all have the ability to be expanded upon in long discussions. One of them is losing your mom at an early age. Another is losing your mom to a very, deadly disease. Another is growing up without, a father figure. That in itself is a whole lot. And you've been able to summarize all these things very nicely in this show, but I wonder if that's going to sort of spin off into other things for you.
It possibly could. I appreciate the compliment as well, because it has been a lot. Because
I say that because you're working with youth, and some of them are going through the same thing.
Yeah, some of them are going through the same things, and some kids have come up to me and told me, "Wow, I lost my mom."
Right.
And I connect with those kids.
Yeah.
Some kids, look at me and say, I haven't seen my father.
Right.
And it's inspirational for me. And I just want to give back as much as I can.
You have certainly created some vulnerability around yourself for sharing the deepness, of the stories that you're sharing.
Yeah.
You wrote something called Know Who You Are.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you read that for us?
Yes. In this poem here, my mom, like I said, used to always tell me, son, don't worry about you because you know who you are. It says, never listen to the naysayers. They don't want to see you go far. Stay confident, stay positive, know who you are. The days used to be longer, but for some reason they seem a little shorter. Tomorrow's never promised to you, but today you carry a tall order. Situations and circumstances can sometimes cause you painful aggression. Don't get caught up. Let your legs do the walking so your feet can leave a memorable impression. You set a great example for your family to be extremely proud. Your voice can finally be heard as you shout out loud from the crowd. Life is like a golf swing. You can get a hole in one or you can settle for par. Never settle for less. Know who you are. The world looks at your life through a few different lenses. Lead with your heart. Keep rising to the top. Those people are just pretending. You don't even have to speak and try to give a false confession. The truth will set you free without any trial or jury selection. The smoke is starting to clear now. You left the battle with many, many scars. Victory is finally yours because you know who you are.
Is there anything else that you would like to share about lung cancer awareness and prevention?
Yes, I just want to say that, with the American Lung Association, we're doing all we can to bring more awareness, and early detection and treatment are critical and crucial in the prevention of slowing and spreading of lung cancer disease in this country. So whatever we can do as individuals, as a group, as an organization, try to get involved and try to make an impact, because there's a lot of people out there that need our help, with this deadly disease. And there are other, causes as well, but, I'm just, because I'm a part of this, that's why I'm highlighting this at this particular time.
Right. How can folks get in touch with you? Namely Steve Harvey, since...
You can contact me at Venard, VENARD, C34 at Comcast.net.
Great. We'll make that email address available at akiagarnett.com/thinkbig. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We'll be back with another show.